Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. It's Monday, baby. You know what that means. It's time for a countdown as voted on by fans all across social media. And this one was fairly simple of a question, but it's one that surprisingly we haven't really dealt with before. So I said, you know what? As we're just ending the War for Cybertron trilogy and it feels like a time where something was winding down before we get into something new, it felt like a good time to ask the question, which Transformer has the most satisfying transformation? All lines, all history, this was wide open, third party, official, the whole gambit was covered. And that's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, loud my baby. And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. And yes, this is the most satisfying Transformers to transform. This is the ones that people pick up the most in their hands, the ones that they feel rewarded when they go to robot mode. They feel rewarded when they go to vehicle mode. These are the ones that have the movements that capture imaginations and spark interest. There were a lot. We're going to, of course, begin with our honorable mentions first. There are three of them. One of them being Titan's Return 6-Shot. Despite all of the complaints that people did have about him, and I love mine for the record, but I know a lot of people did have a lot of complaints. The fact is, it's very interesting to see how he can go between all those modes. Plus, if you don't want him to be, like a headmaster, he doesn't need to be, really. You can leave his head on and it's fine. So, Titan's Return 6-Shot, G1 Optimus Prime, quintessential. I think we all knew he was going to make it. And Origins Bumblebee, who I sort of see. Now, I do have a panel that pops off that annoys me, but once I get him in robot mode, I think to myself, it's a good-looking Bumblebee. When I get him to his Cybertronian space car, hover car mode thing, I'm like, that looks like the thing from the pilot. I'm happy. I like it. So I get those. Of course, those are the three honorable mentions. They did not make the list. Who did make the list? You know what we're going to do, man. We're going to kick things off with number 10 first. And coming in at number 10 is a character who has a representation that I said was even better than his masterpiece representation. I'm talking about Studio Series 86 Grimlock. Yeah, he came in at number 10. I get it. He feels chunky. He feels solid. The transformation feels familiar to G1, but is unique in and of its own volition. The way the legs kind of fold up on themselves is kind of brilliant, and the guy feels solid, he feels secure in both modes. I feel happy when I see him as a robot, quintessentially Grimlock. I feel happy when I see him as a dinosaur. And you know what? The feel of him and the look of him in both modes, for my wife to end up saying that, you know what, just as a Transformers fan, you owe it to yourself to have this guy. You need this guy in your collection. For somebody who's not a direct Transformers fan to say that says an awful lot about this mold and just how enjoyable the transformation is. And for that reason, Grimlock from Studio Series 86 takes the number 10 slot. Number 9 goes back a few years to one of my favorite Transformers, and as a matter of fact, one that is still highly regarded as a tremendously well done mold. Sadly, there were a couple of instances of QC issues and misassembly that I did hear of. I did not experience it, and if you did, I understand how it would ruin this mold for you. But if you didn't, I gotta say, I agree with the votes for this one, and it's none other than Titan's Return Triggerhappy. Love this transformation. It is involved. It is interesting. Everything kind of gets used and incorporated. Even the way the nose goes down on the back. Yes, it's a backpack, but it's so small. It is You know, the blasters on his arms can go up on his arms out of the way or go down over his hand as extra blasters. We have the torso that does a flip-de-doo turnaround thing. This is great engineering. This is indicative of what they can do for a decent price point. Even now, while I think this would be a little bit more expensive than it was when it originally released, the only thing here that I can honestly say is missing that I wish we had would be, do we have wrist? I don't think we had wrists. Nah, so wrists and ankles, that's about it. He was tremendous. He is tremendous. He makes a fun plane. He makes a fun and functional robot. And for that reason, he takes the number 9 slot. Number 8 became a quick fan favorite with Netflix Soundwave. I get it. I get it. This is a great transformation. A couple of votes came in for the Siege, which I counted separately, but honestly, if you didn't get this version, the Siege version is great. Might be worth picking up the Shockwave Labs add-on kit so he can do a more proper kind of boombox mode. But I think the Siege is great. The Netflix is just maybe a little bit better, arguably. The fans felt like the Netflix version was better, and that's all we needed. Whether the Siege, which I personally really like, or the Netflix, I can't argue that moving the joints, locking them in place in robot mode and in cassette player mode just feels good. It feels rewarding and it feels satisfying, and enough fans felt the same way. That old Soundwave here was able to take the number 8 slot. Number 7 is somewhat of a brilliant feat of engineering in the modern era, though it's not perfect. Even still, enough fans see this mold as a quintessential version of this character that they had to vote for it. I kind of see it. And it's Earthrise Optimus Prime. We all know that there is some questionableness about his price point, about the size of the trailer, about some of the paint apps that should have been done. Like, I painted the back of the legs blue, but they were gray. They should have been gray all along. Whether it should have been this brighter blue or a darker blue. Whether they should have used the Kingdom Ultra Magnus head on this mold because it's a better Optimus head than this one, or what. And some people don't like the whole tires on the back, though I do think that that's an interesting way to get them out of the way. When I first got this guy, I felt like he didn't feel as good as the Siege. And I do love the Siege. However, I have converted him a billion times. And while certain times I forget little nuanced movements, I do feel like when I get toward the end of the transformation going to truck mode and I'm locking in all of those final panels, every click gives me a sense of satisfaction. When I go to robot mode, when I finally get the arms out and put them down by his side, when I finally turn the torso around so that we have the proper abdomen and whatnot, and when I, fold everything up inside of his chest and can still access the matrix, yeah, over time this guy's grown on me. The only thing that I would change now with this mold is I really, really wish that they had stuck with the legs, the lower legs of the Siege, so that you could turn those tires in rather than have them left on the outside of the leg, because in the cartoon they were turned in. I think this is about as quintessentially perfect of a mainline Optimus Prime as we're ever likely to get. For that reason, and because enough fans felt the same way, this guy took the number 7 slot. Number 6 is a mold that I adore. It's a mold that, for me, has stood the test of time as a representation of a particular character. In fact, it is a mold that I had an extra of that I recently gave away in the 5 for 5K event. Who am I talking about? This guy. This is the Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus. And if we're talking about the stock Ultra Magnus, it's still great. The truck mode is the most G1 looking version we've had. If you're an IDW Comics fan, it's definitely indicative of that. Minimus Ambus is a great little Micromaster styled add-on. Not necessary for my G1 desires, but I totally understand why some people would, go for the comics and want that Minimus Ambus nod. And then you can also get a couple of upgrade kits if you want. I here have the KBB Core Fighter, which is a KO of the Perfect Effect upgrade set. And I have the X2 Toys add-on kit for the feet and whatnot. The stock is tremendous. the add-ons available make him even more tremendous. I still prefer this over the Siege and over the Earthrise. All respect to them. They're great leaders and they're great versions of Ultra Magnus. But this guy, for me, and for many fans, still stands the test of time as a quintessential version of Ultra Magnus. And for that reason, he has to take the number 6 slot. And here we are once again at that most coveted of locations. You know where we are, don't you? Shh, listen for it. We're at the halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have one of the most popular molds ever. I looked at a upsized version of it by Wei Jiang, maybe. And I wasn't a huge fan of it, though I know that almost universally this mold is loved by the fandom, even though we have gotten an update since. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about none other than MP10 Optimus Prime. This guy. In case you needed a reminder of what MP10 Optimus Prime looked like, I don't own the mold. I don't have it. The only version I looked at was the Wei Jiang, what was it, MPP10, the upsized one. I didn't like the way the arms went into the body. I didn't like the shoulder limitation. I wasn't amazed by it like the rest of the fandom is. However, that being said, because the fans voted for the MP10 mold, here's the reasons that they gave in the voting. They said that they found the movements to be smooth and intuitive. They said that they found that the transformation was extremely reminiscent of the animation model on screen. They said that in robot mode, all of his joints and hinges and everything else are buttery smooth. That was the word used, buttery smooth. Even with the shoulder limitation of only being able to go out about 45 degrees, right? Some people said you could pull it out further and get a little more. Maybe. I mean, I know you can pull it out further. I find it breaks the sculpt a little bit, but to each their own. Then some people said the head sculpt, the chest, the stature is undeniable. When you go to truck mode, it is the quintessential truck. When you go to robot mode, it is the quintessential robot. And everything in between for the transformation is an enjoyable experience. That's what voters said, and who am I to argue? Optimus Prime, MP10, takes the number 5 slot. Coming in at number 4 is a mold that, believe it or not, I've never seen, I've never held, I've never experienced. I literally know nothing about it or how it works. Though I wouldn't argue if I had 3 of them. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about this guy. Yeah, Prime Vehicon. I don't know the mold. I've never seen it. I've never held a deluxe Transformers Prime Vehicon in my hand. I'd like to have a trio of them though. But I've never had it. I've only ever heard good things about the articulation, about the materials, and about the engineering. Specifically, those who voted for this guy said the way the legs are done and fold up is absolutely brilliant. I'm relaying to you what was relayed to me because honestly, I don't know. All I know is that he got enough votes that he took the number 4 slot. As we hit the top 3, we also hit the War for Cybertron trilogy and the introduction of Commander Class and this guy. It is Jetfire. Now, to be fair, I know, this is the Shattered Glass Jetfire. I'm a bit smitten with him right now, and honestly, he's a little bit more accessible and easier to get than my regular Jetfire. However, the votes were for the regular red and white Jetfire, the guy we all know and love from the original cartoon that was known as Skyfire. Any votes for Skyfire or Jetfire, I lumped together. The Shattered Glass coloration had a few votes of his own. But, again, to be clear, the coloration that is actually listed here is the red and white one. I just took this one because I didn't want to go digging to get the other one out from where I have him displayed. This guy I was just able to get very, very quickly. That being said, the color aside, the transformation is kind of brilliant here. It's a lot of things that move, but at the same time, they're in big, hefty chunks, so as you move them, they feel like yeah, they're supposed to do that. After you've done it once, maybe twice, a lot of it feels really intuitive. The way the backpack unfurls, the way the wings come down and then fold out, the way the shoulders fold into the body and the collapsing of the arms with the hands, going inside of the forearms. The way that the legs kind of combine our wars, but in an interesting way where you open the inside of the leg and then you pull it out from the side and up over. The way even then that you have thrusters in here that lock onto these thrusters back here to solidify everything. And then the plane itself looks amazing. Honestly, for me, the Shattered Glass plane looks even more amazing. Take everything that's wonderful about that big white and red plane and make it black and purple. I love it. Absolutely love it. Whether the Shattered Glass or whether the actual coloration that we all know and love from G1. This mold, yeah, buddy, deserves to be on this list, and it certainly took the number 3 slot. Number 2 in our countdown of most satisfying transformations is a mold that, well, has become extremely, extremely popular over the last few years with several reuses. I mean, as many, or almost as many, as any Seeker mold that we've ever gotten. What am I talking about? This guy! Well, kind of this guy. It is the Siege Sideswipe mold. I don't have the Siege Sideswipe. I didn't get it. I didn't particularly like the car mode. I waited until we got an Earth mode version, which is a bit of an adaptation of this mold. As votes came in, I kept the Earth mode votes separate from the votes for the Siege body type. Sideswipe was going to make it number 2 by himself anyway. But there were, to be fair, a couple of votes that came in for deep cover, a couple of votes that came in for this coloration. I call this one Lambor as a different character. One came in, I think maybe 2 came in for Tiger Track. See, I'm so used to saying Tigatron. Tiger Track. Or is it Tiger Tracks? I don't know. Needless to say, there are a number of uses of the Siege Sideswipe mold, and fans have absolutely loved it. I'm always concerned about the ankles breaking off. At least I was when I reviewed Sideswipe. Other subsequent uses of the mold, I don't feel that way. They seem to be better, and the Earth adaptations seem to be toleranced a little bit better down there. Yeah, I get it. A lot of people love the hinge and swivel usage here. They love how we have the simplicity of the chest going up and the arms folding inside. And they love the way that the legs fold up on themselves. It is a great looking robot. It is a great looking car. And it actually fills the bill as a true blue deluxe. It has the mass, it has the paint across all of the mold uses, and it has the engineering. How can you argue with good old Siege Sideswipe? And he comes in at the number 2 slot. And then we have number 1 most satisfying transformation. And I didn't know what was going to take number 1 until this guy started racking up votes, man. Racking them up and racking them up. And then it went out in a big lead, and then it kept just making that lead bigger. Fans in droves voted for this guy. They said, obviously it has to be this guy. Who am I talking about? One that I absolutely agree with, and it's none other than Kingdom Cyclonus. Oh yeah, number 1 for the year with fan votes. He was number 1 for me, for my personal list for 2021, and now he's number 1 again as most satisfying transformation. There's virtually, other than a little bit of space here on the back of the leg, there's virtually no hollowness here. There's virtually no backpack here. The whole inner part of the torso, the way that it comes out and unfurls to become a plane, the robot has like no kibble, no backpack. The plane is sleek, smooth, without a whole robot hanging out under the plane. And the method of going back and forth to give between both modes is nothing short of enjoyable. Kingdom Cyclonus, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. This guy is everything right about Transformers, everything right about Voyager class, everything right about this franchise, this fandom, and what we all know and love. without a doubt, easily, and the votes show it, this guy took far and above the #1 slot. That's 10 down to 1 once again, but of course that's not all the votes we had. Who else did we have votes for here? Let me see. We had votes for 86 Slag had some votes. We had votes for Dark of the Moon Soundwave. We had votes for G1 First Aid. We had votes for G1 Sideswipe, G1 Skids, the Kingdom Red Alert, G1 Megatron, you got a lot of G1 in here. Earthrise Ultra Magnus, Siege Ultra Magnus, Perfect Finish Ultra Magnus, Titan's Return Highbrow, Transformers Prime Optimus Prime First Edition, Earthrise Bumblebee, Earthrise Prowl, Earthrise Cliff Jumper, MP Skids, Studio Series Blackout, and Grindor, Thrilling 30, Sandstorm, Thrilling 30, Springer. I think we knew that Springer was going to get some votes. Roadbuster, and who else will I throw in here? Let's say, animated Soundwave. I mean, there were a lot more than that too. It was quite a list. Let me know if your favorites made the list, the ones that you find most satisfying, because let's be realistic here. There could easily be a lot more than 10, man. A lot more than 10. We've been blessed with a lot of good engineering over the years, even though we've also been blessed with a lot of bad engineering, or cursed with a lot of bad engineering. It's been a rocky road, but we could definitely have a lot more than 10 here. Let me know if your favorites made the list. I appreciate you guys coming by and giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Don't forget, man, to also hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us, and that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you right there, you do make a difference. Whether you know it or not, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way, baby, right here, inside the videos.